I am Kimberly. Recently, there has been a distance between my husband, Daniel, and me. Daniel frequently stays out late due to work or drinking parties, usually returning home after 10 p.m. My daughter Julia is in high school, and I have grown accustomed to life without Daniel around. Occasionally, he comes home early, around 8 p.m., usually smelling strongly of alcohol, indicating an early end to his drinking sessions. When Julia grimaced at the smell, Daniel looked at her irritably and says, "What?" And then inappropriately yelled, "The breadwinner is home and you make that face." Unable to bear it, I intervened, saying, "Stop yelling," which directed Daniel's anger towards me. He glared at me and said, "It's because of your lack of discipline that our daughter has become so insolent. Teach her to respect her father at least," and stormed off to the bath. After he left, Julia snorted and said, "I don't respect him because he's not respectable," and sticked her tongue out towards the bathroom. I let out a deep sigh. Until Julia finished elementary school, Daniel watched over her with affection. However, it seems that at some point, Julia became a nuisance to Daniel. Even during her elementary years, while showing affection, he did not actually take care of her, leaving all housework and childcare to me. "Mom, you should just divorce him. If you do, he won't bother me anymore and you won't have to hear his nonsense," said Julia, my own daughter. I too wish to leave him, but I feel that I should wait until Julia graduates from high school. However, sensing my thoughts, Julia clearly stated, "Don't use me as a reason not to divorce. I don't want to think of him as my father, and I don't want to see you enduring for my sake." Realizing that avoiding divorce because of Julia is the same as telling her, "I can't divorce because of you," I immediately reflected on my thoughts. Then, I started researching divorce on the internet. This led me to also suspect Daniel of infidelity. When I came across signs that a husband might be cheating, most of them seemed to apply to Daniel. Daniel's return home has clearly become later than before. His interest in Julia and me has waned, and he always keeps his smartphone close. Witnessing these changes, doubts began to grow in my mind that Daniel might be more interested in someone else than in our family. This suspicion became a focus before considering divorce, concentrating on his possible infidelity. Fortunately, I have savings from before we were married, which allowed me to afford a detective agency to investigate Daniel's actions. I have not shared my suspicions with Julia, as I was not sure if Daniel was indeed having an affair. If it turned out he was not, it wouldn't necessarily worry her. However, just a month after deciding to have Daniel's actions investigated, and on the eve of receiving the final report from the detective, Daniel came home late from another drinking party. Unexpectedly, Julia said to me, "Mom, I think Dad is having an affair." I was surprised that Daniel's actions had become suspicious enough for Julia to notice, despite already having a scheduled meeting with the detective and being on the verge of confirming my suspicions. This situation signified a potential serious rift in our family bonds, a grave situation for me. Why do you think so? When I wondered how Julia came to know about her father's affair, she answered nervously, choosing her words carefully. "Well, it was last Saturday. I was at the shopping mall with a friend. That's when I saw Dad with another woman." Indeed, Julia had gone out that Saturday, and Daniel had left the house saying some work came up while Julia was out. But his work turned out to be time spent at the shopping center. "Was it just the two of them?" I asked, to which Julia nodded her head. "I saw them coming out of the movie theater. They were holding hands, eating ice cream together afterward. They definitely looked like a couple." "I see. Leave the rest to me," I said, trying to calm Julia down. My own daughter had witnessed her father's infidelity firsthand. And sadly, the misfortune continued thereafter. After hearing the detailed report on Daniel's infidelity from the investigator the next day, I returned home to find Julia in tears. Unexpectedly, Daniel, who usually doesn't come home until around 10 p.m., was already at home. Upon seeing me, he immediately exclaimed, "I intend to divorce you." It's because you can't properly raise our daughter and are having an affair with another man. It's only natural for me to leave you, right? I couldn't grasp the meaning of his words immediately. However, seeing Julia crying after receiving harsh words from him, I quickly went to her and confronted Daniel. What infidelity are you talking about? What do you want to accomplish by making our daughter cry? Her beloved mother has been dating men other than her husband during the day, so I told her that it's morally wrong. When she retorted that I was the one who's unacceptable as a person, I scolded her and fulfilled my duty as a father, he said. Julia's cheeks were red. I couldn't stay in that place any longer. Feeling this, I hugged Julia tightly while Daniel looked on smugly. You have 3 days to leave this house. Once the deadline passes, I will use whatever means necessary to drive you out of this house. Be prepared for that, he declared forcefully. His voice was full of confidence, knowing well that we couldn't physically oppose him. He swung his arms with more vigor, laughed unpleasantly, and left the house. Left behind, Julia, with tears in her eyes, suggested, "We have to tell Grandma and Grandpa right away." She was referring to Daniel's parents, my in-laws. I have a relatively good relationship with them, and they have always adored Julia deeply since she was born. It's easy to imagine how furious they would be if they learned that Julia had been harmed by Daniel. Julia intuitively understood this fact and decided that we should act immediately. So, I quickly contacted my in-laws, asking them to come to our house as soon as possible without Daniel knowing. They promised to rush over after hearing about our urgent situation. When they arrived and saw Julia's tear-streaked, reddened cheeks, they were shocked. Such a thing. "Who did this to Julia?" they exclaimed. When my mother-in-law asked, Julia, holding back tears, answered, "Dad did. He said he saw Mom meeting with another man during the day, and called Mom a bad woman for having an affair. When I denied it, such a thing." My in-laws were astonished and started to take care of Julia alongside me, eager to hear the full story from me. I honestly told them that I suspected Daniel might be having an affair and had hired a detective agency to investigate. The man I met that afternoon was the investigator giving me the report on the infidelity. And Daniel. My father-in-law continued. Actually, it seems Daniel is currently involved with 3 women. One of them is a coworker whom he meets on Mondays and Wednesdays. Another is a college student whom he meets on Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays. The last woman is a married childhood friend whom he meets on Thursdays and Saturdays, I revealed. Hearing this, my in-laws were dumbstruck, gripping their heads in disbelief. While they considered the possibility of Daniel cheating, they never imagined he would be involved with 3 women simultaneously. Julia said, "I saw Dad on Saturday, arm in arm with a woman I didn't recognize. So, I knew Dad was involved with someone else." Neither Julia nor I could have imagined that Daniel was cheating with 3 women. When I received the report, I was so shocked that I lost my words. I received the report at a cafe, and it seems Daniel himself or someone he knows witnessed this and misunderstood it as me having an affair. Yet, for him to suspect his wife of infidelity, react violently, and lash out at an innocent daughter. I intend to divorce Daniel. Of course, I will take custody of Julia. I cannot leave her with someone who hurts her. That's... My in-laws' expression stiffened for a moment at the thought of not being able to see their granddaughter freely if the divorce went through and I took custody. However, they quickly showed understanding. So, Julia would be happier with her mother than her father. She's in high school and old enough to choose which parent she wants to live with. Let her do as she wishes, they kindly said. Perhaps they realized that their son was incapable of raising Julia properly. At that point, I shared a certain fact with my in-laws. After telling my in-laws that Daniel had ordered Julia and me to leave the house, they exchanged looks and sighed deeply. "We are truly sorry. We are ashamed of our son," they said, bowing their heads in apology. "No, it's not your fault. It's just that he has gone mad because of his affairs. It has nothing to do with you." I comforted them, shaking my head. I asked them to keep an eye on the situation from a distance and to refrain from contacting Daniel directly, as I intended to resolve the issue with him myself. They encouraged me, saying, "Please consult us anytime. We are here to support you." Subsequently, with the help of movers, my daughter and I moved out swiftly. Since my parents' home is far away and Julia has her high school, we decided to rent a short-stay apartment near her school. Considering the potential danger of being near such a father, we planned to move further away when the summer vacation started in a month. Fortunately, my company implements a full remote work policy, and we had moved to this area at Daniel's strong request when we got married. I then planned to move to an area closer to my company. Daniel has no interest in my job and does not even know what I do. While we were preparing to move, I unexpectedly found a divorce paper in the mailbox written in Daniel's name. It was undoubtedly filled out by Daniel, who, wanting to avoid meeting us but having forgotten to hand over the divorce paper, had hastily filled it out and dropped it in there. Without wasting a moment, I filled in my name and other necessary details and promptly submitted the divorce paper to the city hall. Before the 3-day deadline Daniel gave us passed, Julia and I left that house. Now that the divorce has been officially finalized, there was no longer any reason for me to seek a reunion with Daniel. Above all, I had a strong desire to protect Julia from Daniel's influence. A month after leaving the house, as Julia entered her summer vacation and began preparing to transfer to a new school, and we finished moving to a different place, Daniel unexpectedly called. "How do you feel living like homeless people? If you are willing to apologize, you can come back." "Honestly, I'm getting bored of living in a big house alone," he said. Despite having been given divorce papers, why did he think I would return? Did he still think we weren't divorced yet? "There's no need for us to return to that house. Don't worry. It has already been sold," I calmly replied. "What?" He was surprised. I chuckled lightly. "Why did you think you could drive us out of that house?" "It was my property, inherited from my father," I said. Aha! Daniel had overlooked such an important fact, perhaps distracted by his affairs with 3 women he was seeing on a rotating schedule. Of course, I knew the house was in my name, but I complied with Daniel's demand and left, considering Julia's future and deciding it was better to move to a place unknown to Daniel. "Your parents were surprised, too. They couldn't believe you were so uninformed," I added. "What? You went to see my parents after I kicked you out?" He panicked. "I didn't ask for their help. I just told them we were divorcing." "Now, Julia and I live in a place you don't know," I calmly informed him. "What? You're in a place I don't know? Whatever. Come back. If the house is yours, I guess I have no choice but to accept you," he said arrogantly, as if my ownership changed the situation. I couldn't help but smile at his belief that his attitude could change the situation. "What are you talking about? There's no reason for us to return. I told you the house has been sold, right? It's neither mine nor yours anymore," I countered. "What? What am I supposed to do then?" He panicked. "You have until the end of this month to leave." "That's unfair," he protested. "Considering you gave us 3 days, I think I'm being far more generous," I calmly said in front of him. He grumbled, frustrated at having his own words used against him. Compared to the 3-day notice, a month is far more lenient, I believe. "Also, I intend to claim compensation from you." "What?" He was surprised. "I have already received compensation from your affair partners, including your company colleague, the college student, and your childhood friend. So next, I will be claiming compensation for the affair from you," I explained to Daniel. "Impossible. The reason they all broke up with me and blocked me was your doing." He was shocked. It seems his attempt to contact me and propose that I could return if I apologized was because he could no longer reach his affair partners. His self-centered nature was evident from his demanding tone for me to return while relying on me. "You'll hear from my lawyer," I said. "Wait a minute. Then I will demand compensation from you, he claimed. Excuse me, I reacted. Because there's evidence of you having an affair. One of my partners claimed to have taken photos of you, he insisted. That reminded me of a misunderstanding. However, that was a complete misunderstanding. The person I was meeting at that time was an investigator from the detective agency giving a report on your affairs. The investigator can provide evidence that I was not having an affair, I clarified. What? An investigator from a detective agency? He was clearly flustered. That's unfair, he protested. He then realized his trump card against me was worthless and that he was no match for me. Yet, he declared he would not yield to my demands. I will never pay. Neither compensation nor child support for Julia. He defied. However, such claims had no impact on me. Even if you refuse to pay, it's not a problem. I can directly contact your employer and request a deduction from your salary, I calmly replied. To my employer. He was astonished. As one of the people you had an affair with is a coworker, it's only natural to report to your workplace. Moreover, after an investigation with a lawyer, we found out you have a substantial severance package. If we can access that, paying child support won't be a problem. The compensation might be high since there were 3 affair partners, but that's something you'll have to manage, I continued. No way, will nothing be left for me? He despaired. Indeed, nothing would be left for him. His actions had driven away his wife and daughter, alienated 3 affair partners, made his own parents aware he had abandoned his family, lost his home, and exposed his infidelity at work. His workplace won't have a favorable view of someone who commits adultery within its premises. He used to talk as if his promotion was guaranteed, but what awaits him now is the opposite of advancement. He imagined us living as homeless people, but it seems he's the one on that path. Kimberly, I was wrong. Let's start over, he pleaded, to which I responded, if you have something to say, it'll have to go through my lawyer from now on. I'm cutting off contact. Then, I blocked him completely. Julia had already blocked him, too. When he sought his parents' help after being kicked out, his parents, unable to forgive him for hurting their beloved granddaughter, told him, "You can't enter this house ever again." At work, his infidelity was exposed, and the popular colleague he once dated resigned because of the scandal, leaving him to face cold stares from other colleagues. Unable to resign because he needs to pay compensation, he now lives a simple life, commuting between a modest apartment near his workplace and his job. Since moving to our new home, my daughter and I live peacefully without someone coming home smelling of alcohol or shouting loudly. Julia has made friends at her new school and expressed her happiness. Moving was the best decision. I'm happy with just the 2 of us. This proves that our decision was the right one, and I am committed to raising Julia to be a well-rounded individual. Is it impossible to increase the living expenses? It's impossible to get by with just $3 a month. Answering a call from my son, a university student who's living alone. I heard something unexpected. What? $3 a month? My voice grew louder in surprise. What on earth was going on? In reality, I had been sending $1,000 to my son's bank account every month. Then, my son continued with even more shocking words. I didn't want to tell you since you were fired, Mom, but living on a monthly allowance of $3 is difficult. Fired. I am a nurse and had just finished a night shift. There was no truth to being fired. To understand the situation, I hurried to my son's apartment. When I rang the doorbell, my son came to greet me. He was thinner than when he was at home, and his complexion was poor. He was clearly living frugally, not even using the heater in this cold weather. I'm using only a blanket to save on electricity. I've been working hard at my part-time job, but with university studies, I'm busy every day. I felt at my limit, so I called you, Mom. When I checked his bank account statement, it was true that only $3 had been deposited each month. I'm sorry for not noticing earlier, but I was actually sending $1,000 a month. How did this situation happen? For now, I'll withdraw some cash from a nearby ATM. I quickly went to an ATM, withdrew money, and handed it to my son. Is it okay to give me so much? Thank you, Mom. I always pretended to be fine in our calls to avoid worrying you. But I'm glad I could tell you the truth today. My heart ached for my son's efforts. Such a situation was unimaginable. Could it be? With these doubts, I told my son, until the cause becomes clear, I'll give you cash directly starting next month. After I changed the method of sending allowances to direct handover to my son, my husband became furiously angry and confronted me. Hey, isn't it the day to send money to our son? What are you doing, slacking off? My name is Rachel. After graduating from nursing school, I pursued my dream job as a nurse and have been living busy days. Romance was something I was uninvolved in, and I never had a serious boyfriend, but I didn't mind much myself. I thought casually that someday I would meet someone wonderful and build a happy relationship. Nevertheless, it seemed my parents were worried about me. Rachel, Dad's friend's son would be perfect for you. Don't you want to meet him? I was surprised by such a sudden suggestion. What? Why all of a sudden? Is it like a matchmaking meeting? No. It's nothing as formal as a matchmaking meeting. Just a dinner with the four of us. Following my father's advice, I eventually decided to attend the dinner. Nice to meet you. I'm Matt. Matt, my father's friend's son, was 3 years older than me and worked as a civil servant. He had a serious impression, but his smile was very gentle and had a heartwarming aura. Attracted to his personality, I quickly developed a liking for Matt. It seemed Matt also had a good impression of me, and after that, we occasionally had dinner together, eventually leading to a relationship. After dating for 2 years, we happily got married. With this joy, we decided to buy a new house together. For me, who had been away from romance for a long time, meeting Matt felt like fate. My father, too, was surprised and overjoyed by the deepening of our relationship, even shedding tears at our wedding. His tears of joy made our happiness even more special. Our marriage brought many blessings from friends and relatives, filling the start of our new life with warm messages of celebration. Not long after beginning our happy married life, I discovered I was pregnant, bringing even more joy to our family. I decided to take maternity leave and parental leave. In our family, a healthy baby boy was born, and we named him Nick. Nick grew up energetically, and every time we witnessed his growth, our happiness only increased. Matt was a wonderful father. Even on days when he came home exhausted, he always actively participated in housework and childcare. I deeply appreciated and felt love for his efforts. Matt, I truly appreciate your help with the household chores. What are you talking about? This is nothing. We are a couple, after all. Matt always replied with a kind smile. Every time I saw his warm smile, I felt my love for him deeply. When Nick turned 1 year old, I returned to my job as a nurse, taking a new step in balancing work and family. We took turns dropping off and picking up Nick from daycare, working together and spending our days cooperatively. Time passed and Nick became a senior in high school. I turned 47 and Matt reached the milestone of 50. Nick, I've prepared sandwiches for a late-night snack. Have some whenever you want, I said, bringing the snack to his room as usual. Thanks, Mom. Sandwiches, that's great. Your snacks give me the energy to study late into the night, Nick said, pausing his studies to smile and express his gratitude. He's always been such an honest and good boy, and I am deeply grateful for a son like him. He was preparing for university entrance exams, aiming for a college outside our state. If he passed, he would start living alone from spring, leaving our home. It's sad, but it's the path Nick chose. We decided to support him with all our might. And finally, the day of the exam arrived. I'm off, Dad, Mom. Nick cheerfully greeted at the entrance, his face slightly tense as he stepped outside. Do your best, Nick. I'm sure you'll be fine. I encouraged him. Keep calm and tackle the questions. You can do it. Matt also cheered him on. Hearing our words, Nick nodded firmly and headed for the examination venue. Ultimately, Nick successfully passed his preferred university. Congratulations, Nick. It's sad to see you leave home, but I'm so happy you passed. I congratulated him. Well done, Nick. You are our pride. Matt also expressed his joy. We celebrated his university acceptance with a lavish feast, sharing in Nick's happiness. Thank you, Mom, Dad. I couldn't have come this far without the two of you. I'll give it my all at university, too. Nick expressed his gratitude. Thus, Nick was set to start living alone in a different state from Autumn. To support Nick's tuition and living expenses, I started doing more night shifts to earn the extra allowance. I was managing the household finances and had decided to send Nick $1,000 every month. Although I felt guilty for frequently leaving the house empty due to my night shifts, Matt always supported and encouraged me. Rachel, I really appreciate you working so hard. The $1,000 for Nick. I know it's tough, so it's a big help. Matt expressed his gratitude. Thank you for always being there for me. I can keep going because you're with me, I replied. Thanks to Matt actively taking care of cooking and household chores, I could concentrate on my work. September came, and Nick moved into the apartment we had chosen together, and the remittances began. I transferred $1,000 to Nick's bank account every month. And before we knew it, several months had passed. Did you transfer the $1,000 to Nick this month? You didn't forget, did you? Of course, I transferred it properly. I wouldn't forget, I replied, and Matt showed a relieved smile. But then he furrowed his brows and said worriedly, I wonder if Nick is doing well living alone. I hope he's keeping up with his classes. I just hope he doesn't get involved with the wrong friends. There's no need to worry. Nick said he's enjoying university life on Messenger. Matt, you worry too much. I often smiled at Matt's concern for Nick. I also kept in frequent contact with Nick, ensuring he was doing well and feeling reassured. Time passed, and the season gradually changed to winter. The air outside was cold and breaths turned into white mist. One night, after finishing a night shift, I returned home. Dragging my tired body, I headed towards the bedroom. As I started to change clothes, something caught my eye. There was an unfamiliar lip balm lying there. Is this Matt's? I've never seen this before, I thought, picking up the lip balm from the floor. Matt usually showed little interest in skincare products, particularly not lip balm. Maybe he bought it on a whim because of the harsh winter dryness. However, the packaging of the lip balm was unlike typical men's products, with a sophisticated design more appealing to women. The lid was adorned with glitter, and the product name was written in pink letters, standing out prominently. Intrigued by this odd discovery, I slipped the lip balm into my pocket. That night, when Matt returned from work, I decided to ask him about it. Matt, is this your lip balm? I asked, and for a moment, Matt looked surprised, then quickly smiled and took the lip balm from me. Haha, yes, that's mine. I've been looking for it. Thanks for finding it, Rachel. Where did you find it? It was on the bedroom floor, I replied. Matt seemed a bit flustered. What's wrong? Is there something odd? I asked, and Matt replied somewhat sheepishly, well, you know, it's uncommon for a guy to use lip balm, so it's a bit embarrassing. He said, scratching his head. It's not embarrassing at all. Many men take care of their lips these days, but that lip balm looks a bit too feminine. Maybe choose something simpler next time? I suggested, and Matt nodded. Yeah, I'll pick a more normal one next time. I actually chose it in a hurry and later realized it might be a bit girly. Anyway, let's watch a movie tonight. That movie you wanted to see has started streaming. He changed the subject. I was a bit puzzled by Matt's behavior in deflecting the conversation, but soon got engrossed in the movie and forgot about it. About a month later, I received an unexpected call from Nick while on my way home from a night shift. Nick, it's been a while. What's up? I greeted him cheerfully. From the other end of the phone, Nick's voice sounded weak. Mom, I'm sorry. I've been busy lately and couldn't always answer the phone. Indeed, I had noticed that Nick hadn't been answering my calls more frequently of late. I had been worried, but since they were communicating via messenger, I thought there were no major problems. Don't worry about it, it's okay. But you sound a bit down. Is something wrong? I asked and was surprised by Nick's response. Mom, can you increase the amount of the allowance? Living on $3 a month is really tough. What? $3 a month? My voice rose in astonishment. I couldn't understand why the allowance would be only $3 a month. I was certain I had been sending Nick $1,000 every month. I didn't want to tell you since you lost your job, Mom, but it's really hard with only $3 a month. Nick continued, Lost my job? What are you talking about? I was confused and couldn't understand what he was saying. I had just finished a night shift and certainly wasn't fired. As I struggled to comprehend the situation, Nick's troubled voice continued. Wait, Mom, I heard you were fired. So, you said you'd send $1,000 a month at first, but now it's only $3, right? What are you talking about? Anyway, I'm coming over to your place right now. Okay, I'll be waiting. After hanging up, I tried to head to the station quickly. My legs wouldn't move properly in my agitation. I was surprised by this unexpected development and my heart was pounding. Trying to calm down, I took deep breaths. I slapped my cheeks with my hands to focus and quicken my pace to the station. After changing trains, I arrived at the station near Nick's apartment. I contacted Nick on my phone, telling him I would be there soon. When I reached Nick's apartment and rang the doorbell, the door opened immediately. Welcome, Mom. Nick looked shockingly thin and pale, as if he might collapse at any moment. Nick, are you okay? I asked, surprised and worried. Seeing Nick's condition, my heart was filled with pain and sadness. When I entered Nick's apartment, it was chillingly cold inside and the heater was completely off. Aren't you using the heater? It's so cold you'll get sick. Let's turn it on right now. I suggested, worried. No, I can't. The electricity bill is too high. I'm just managing with this blanket. Nick replied, his voice trembling, his thin body shivering. Nick, I've been transferring $1,000 every month to your account since September. There's no truth to me quitting my job, I explained slowly. Really? But only $3 is being deposited into my account every month. I've been working part-time, but with university studies, it's been really busy. I was at my limit. Nick answered earnestly. I believed Nick wasn't the kind of child to lie. His emaciated appearance and the fact that he was living without heating in this cold weather made it clear that his words were true. I understand, Nick. I'm not doubting you. But to find out the cause of this situation, could you show me your bank book? I asked quietly. Okay, just give me a moment. Nick went to look for his bank book. Nick carefully took out his bank book from a shelf in his neatly arranged room and showed it to me. As I looked at the bank book, it was indeed as Nick had said. Only $3 was being deposited each month. Nick, I'm sorry, but truly, I have been sending $1,000 every month. What could be going on here? First, I'll withdraw some cash from a nearby ATM. Saying this, I went to the ATM immediately, withdrew the cash, and returned to Nick. Nick, take this for now. Until we find out the reason, I'll give you the money directly starting next month. Can I really accept this much? Thank you, Mom. I always pretended to be fine to avoid worrying you, but I'm glad I could tell you the truth today. Nick smiled weakly but happily. Seeing his thin frame, I felt a tightness in my chest. I couldn't comprehend how such a situation had arisen. But now, Nick's health was my top priority. First, I needed to take proper care of him. Nick, I'm glad you contacted me. From now on, don't endure the cold, use the heater properly. I'm going to do some shopping now. I'll make lots of your favorite hamburgers and curry. Really? Nick's eyes sparkled with life. After that, I went to the nearby supermarket, bought plenty of ingredients, and returned to Nick's apartment to cook elaborate dishes. Nick joyfully ate, saying how delicious it was repeatedly. I made plenty of food that could be frozen, so he wouldn't have to worry about meals for a while. Then, I'll bring the allowance money directly next month as well. Saying this, I left Nick's apartment. A month later, on the weekend, when Matt returned from work, he confronted me with an angry expression as soon as he entered the house. Today's the day to send money to Nick, right? You haven't been slacking off, have you? It's fine. I went and gave it to Nick directly today. Is there a problem? I answered him, and Matt seemed puzzled. He said, if that's the case, all right then, and quickly headed to the bedroom. When he came back to the living room, then dressed in his casual home clothes, I quickly asked him a question, feeling suspicious. Why did you think I was slacking off with the allowance? Is there a reason? Matt, a bit bewildered, replied, that today is payday, and usually it's the day we send money to Nick, but you didn't mention anything about it, so I got a bit worried. But let's leave this topic now. He clearly tried to change the subject while showing signs of irritation. Matt's behavior was unusual and noticeably strange. I have another question, I said calmly. Why do you ask so many questions? Matt responded, appearing annoyed. Do you remember? The lip balm we found in the bedroom before. You said you bought it yourself, but is it actually from your mistress? No, that's not true at all. Matt immediately denied loudly. He continued, looking more upset. That lip balm was indeed mine. I bought it myself. I wish you wouldn't keep asking the same question. You're acting strange today. You're the one who's acting strange. You're usually calm and don't react so intensely, I pointed out. Matt, raising his voice even more, argued back. I'm not strange. I'm just as usual. Do you really think so? Well, I expected this might happen. That's why I invited some special guests in advance. People you know very well. Saying this, I slowly opened the door to the guest room. Sorry for keeping you waiting so long. Please, come in. Responding to my call, 3 individuals appeared before Matt. What, Erica? And even Dad and Mom are here. Matt was so astonished that he was lost for words. The woman named Erica, clearly in a bad mood, muttered, "This couldn't get any worse," and sat down heavily on a dining chair. Meanwhile, my in-laws looked at Matt with a stern gaze, and his face gradually turned pale. 3 weeks earlier, I had consulted my father-in-law, a former bank employee, about why only $3 was being transferred to Nick. My father-in-law quickly investigated the issue and discovered that there were 2 bank accounts under Nick's name. Matt had opened one of those accounts. Despite my offer to set it up myself, Matt insisted, "Leave it to me, I'll handle it." And eventually, he was the one who opened the account. My father-in-law revealed through conversations with bank staff that Matt had opened 2 bank accounts using Nick's name, claiming it was for living and tuition expenses. The cash card and bank book for the account where I had been depositing $1,000 monthly were actually under Matt's control. I'll manage one of the accounts, so leave the card and book to me, he had insisted, possibly taking them from Nick. Then, Matt withdrew the $1,000 deposited by me every month from that account for his own use. Moreover, to make it seem like he was still sending money to Nick, he deposited a mere $3 into the other account that Nick had the bank book for. After learning this shocking truth, I was trembling with anger and deeply suspicious about how Matt was using the large monthly sum. I then remembered the charmingly designed lip balm I had found in the bedroom before. Driven by this intuition, I decided to have a detective agency investigate Matt's activities. The investigation revealed that Matt was having an affair with a woman named Erica, his subordinate. While I was out on night shifts, Matt had been secretly inviting Erica to our home. Having gathered enough evidence, I decided to confront Matt with the truth by inviting my in-laws and Erica, Matt's mistress. Matt, you must be aware, but your misconduct has already been exposed, I told him sternly, and Matt's face turned ashen, his lips trembling slightly. All the $1,000 sent to Nick each month. You were using it all for Erica, weren't you? How terrible. According to the detective agency's report, you bought Erica an expensive brand necklace. What were you thinking? Matt vehemently protested in response. No, I did buy jewelry, but that's not all. I didn't use all $1,000 just for gifts. Erica's mother was seriously ill and hospitalized for a long time. I was providing financial support for her medical expenses. I was just trying to help someone. Matt claimed. Is that true, Erica? About your mother being sick? Please be aware that lying won't help, as it will eventually be revealed. Can you tell us the truth? When I asked Erica, she was silent for a moment and then reacted with a bit of anger. That's a lie. All of it. My mom is healthy and working on the farm in the countryside every day. The story about her being sick is all made up. Hearing this, Matt shouted, trembling with anger. What? You lied to me? I can't believe it. Do you know how much money I've been giving you? Erica, without any sign of remorse, laughed mockingly. Ha, you're a fool for being deceived. I thought I had found a good cash cow, but it's over now. I thought I could milk you for longer, but I miscalculated. Such a shame. A cash cow. You said you loved me. Was that all a lie, too? Your feelings for me weren't real. You do love me, don't you? Matt was confused, angry, and seemed to forget that I and his parents were present. It was extremely unpleasant for me to see my husband cling to a younger woman in such a pathetic manner. It was embarrassing, pitiful, and above all, deeply unsettling. Suppressing my disgust, I confronted the situation. Just think about it. How could a young and attractive woman like me really love a middle-aged man like you, Matt? It's laughable. Do you even realize your own worth? Look in the mirror and face reality. Erica burst into mocking laughter. Although Erica's words might be true, her brazen attitude infuriated me. To think such a thing. In response to a shocked Matt, I presented him with 3 documents. The first was the bank transaction history, the second, conclusive evidence photos of the affair, and the third, a divorce form. A divorce form. Wait, are we really getting divorced? Matt was shocked, ignoring the first 2 documents and focusing on the divorce form. Of course. How can I continue married life with a man who wastes his son's allowance? But I didn't intend to get divorced. This situation is a separate issue. Matt mumbled some excuse. I exploded in anger at Matt's ridiculous remarks. I can't believe this. You have an affair and yet you think we wouldn't get divorced? And how you treated Nick is unforgivable. What kind of parent are you? Did you really think he could live on $3 a month? Nick has been working hard at part-time jobs, scrimping and saving, becoming skin and bones. He couldn't even properly use the heater. You're terrible. Sign the divorce form now. I do feel sorry for Nick. When I heard Erica's mother was sick, and with all her demands, I desperately needed money. Matt weakly tried to justify himself. That's when my father-in-law delivered a powerful blow to Matt. With a short cry of ah, Matt collapsed, and his father's angry voice boomed. You stupid son. Sign the divorce form, as Rachel says, right now. Dazed, Matt faced me, and I firmly stated, of course, I'll be demanding compensation. I'll add up all the money you wasted, too. Compensation. You can't be serious. Matt was shocked and exclaimed. And Erica, I will also demand payment of compensation from you, so be prepared. I said that to Erica, and her face turned pale, beginning to panic. Wait a minute. Why should I pay compensation? I can't pay. Why should you pay? Because you were involved in an affair with a married person. I have the right to demand compensation from you, and I will make sure you pay it. When I responded calmly, Erica, glaring at Matt, said, Matt, you have to pay for me too. I don't have any money. I spend all my salary on cosmetics, clothes, and bags. I have no savings. Nonsense. I don't have any money either. You took everything. If you hadn't deceived me, none of this would have happened. You're just a devil, Matt yelled. As the two argued, Matt suddenly turned to me, pleading. Rachel, please, spare me the compensation. I'll agree to the divorce, just drop the compensation claim, please. I really have nothing. Look, we've supported each other until now. Tears streaming down his face, Matt appealed, but I felt only revulsion. My love for Matt had vanished the moment I learned he had been spending Nick's allowance on his affair. If you resist any further, I'll double the compensation. Sign the divorce form now. I'll properly claim the compensation later, I stated resolutely, and Matt, realizing my determination, signed the divorce form. I've signed it. Are you happy now? Matt said in a weak voice, handing over the divorce form. Yes, thank you. Now, please leave immediately. What? Do I have to leave? Matt was surprised. Of course, we're getting divorced. We can't live together anymore. You need to take responsibility. Erica, please leave quickly too. After I sternly expelled Matt and Erica from the house, my in-laws repeatedly apologized for their sins misdeeds. But they were not at fault. I was full of gratitude for my father-in-law, whose efforts uncovered Matt's wrongdoings. After expressing my sincere thanks to my in-laws, I headed to the municipal office and submitted the divorce papers, thereby ending my marriage to Matt. Subsequently, through a lawyer, I made compensation claims against Matt and Erica. Despite their civil servant status, they had been openly dating and there had been rumors of their affair for some time. As a result of the compensation claim, they both became mentally strained, increasing mistakes at work, leading to demotion to less significant positions, and unable to bear the cold treatment from colleagues. Erica chose to resign. Matt, disowned by his parents, is now leading a tough life in a modest apartment, paying compensation to me. Erica, though her parents paid the compensation, had to return to her parents' rural home in exchange. She ended up helping with farm work at home, living a life without freedom under the strict supervision of her parents. I received apologies from Erica's parents over the phone and was informed in detail about Erica's current situation. They said they are keeping a strict watch on her to prevent her from causing any more trouble. For myself, I decided to sell my home and move to a place closer to my son Nick's apartment. Nick and I often meet and keep each other updated about our lives. I informed Nick about the divorce with Matt over the phone on the same day. Nick couldn't believe that Matt had lied about me losing my job and only being able to send $3 a month. When I told him the truth, he was deeply shocked. Could it be a mistake? Dad, who was always so kind, doing something like that? Nick said, his voice trembling. I also felt pained by his reaction. Indeed, Matt had once been kind, a good husband, and father. But everything changed after his affair with Erica began. Looking back at the happy days with my family of 3, my heart still aches, but I know I must not dwell on the past. Moving forward is important. Initially, Nick was deeply shocked, but over time, he gradually regained his cheerfulness. After a few months, he returned to his usual bright self, which relieved me. Time passed, and Nick finally graduated from university and secured a job at a well-known company, marking the end of my role in raising him. I continue to work as a nurse and plan to continue in this profession for as long as my health permits. I still maintain a good relationship with my in-laws, who celebrated Nick's graduation. I intend to continue living a fulfilling life, both in my career and personal life.